Hi, today I'm sharing the 5 things startups get wrong about strategy and planning and how to avoid them. But before we get started, take a moment to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on the alerts. Hi, I'm Nile Harris. I'm a life coach, a business consultant, and speaker working with transitioning and growing entrepreneurs and professionals to pursue their passion with a plan to accelerate results by gaining clarity, setting goals, and getting things done. I'm also an expert advisor at a entrepreneur center, and I've consulted and advised dozens of startups, and I've seen patterns as either in the ideation stage, as they approach commercialization, and even when they're in the growth stage. So I've seen these patterns, and I will help walk through with them how to get clear. What is planning, how to set better goals, and then how to track those goals. So today, I'm sharing some of that expertise with you because if the people I advise have questions, I'm sure there are folks out there who have questions as well. And you're afraid to ask, especially if you're a solopreneur, you think you have to spend thousands of dollars to get a high-paid consultant to come in and create strategy, or you think strategy is something that it's for a big corporation. It's for the Amazons of the world. But really, strategy is at the forefront of everything, every business, whether you're in the ideation stage or just getting started, because strategy gives us clarity. So again, talking to you about the 5 things startups get wrong about strategy and planning. I posted on this on my blog, and I'm using this video as a way to expand on what I talked about in that blog. So here we go. Number 1, lack of clarity. Pretty much, and by lack of clarity, I mean startups just fail to plan. They fail to think about what is the strategy, who is their target market, how do they want to reach that target market. They don't make avatars. They also confuse tactics for strategy. They don't really know what strategy is. And so they come up with a list of things that they want to do and then call that a strategy. So let me back up for a second. What is strategy? Strategy is really, as Michael Porter describes it, and Michael Porter is a Harvard Business School professor, one of the leading thoughts and influencers on strategy. And really for him, he defines strategy very eloquently as companies deciding who they want to be, who they don't want to be, and how they're going to differentiate themselves from competitors and others out there who are offering similar products or services. So lack of clarity really means that as an entrepreneur, as a solopreneur, as a startup, you haven't taken time to just sit and think about who you want to reach. And so when we don't have clarity about what we're trying to accomplish with our business, we sacrifice long-term success to get short-term gains. So clarity means I want my business to be to serve a certain market. So you want to be very clear about who your target audience is. What's the value proposition for them? What is the benefit? Why are you different from all the other competitors, all the other companies that offer the same things you do? You want to focus in on your niche. And you want to be very descriptive, very clear about who that target audience is. And you want to create something that's called an avatar. And you want to name your avatar. Is your, Susan, Michael, Stephanie, whatever the name, pick a name that fits that audience. And you want to describe who your audience is. What do they wear? What do they eat? What do they do on the weekends? Are they married? Do they have kids? Are they single? Are they Gen X? Are they a boomer? Are they Gen Z? You want to be very clear about who they are because you need to know where to find your customer. So your customer, are they going to be on LinkedIn? Are they going to be on Snapchat? Are they not going to be on social media at all? And you're going to have to reach them in other ways. So you want to be very clear because that's going to be the basis of your strategy. The second thing is people don't tend to sit down and think about the why. Why are you doing this? Simon Sinek has a great book, Start With Why. because it's important to understand why you've created this business for yourself. What is it that you're trying to solve? Is there a missing need, or is there an unmet need out there that your product or your service that you can fill uniquely? But why are you doing it? Is it to serve humanity? Is it to bring awareness to something that's going on in the world, or something that's going on locally around you, and you want to solve that problem? The next thing, so you want to think about, is your mission, your vision. So for me, my mission is to close the health, wealth, and education disparity gap in America by enabling those and others to achieve their dreams. Because my vision is to change the world one dream at a time. And I'm taking what I've learned in my more than 20 years in working experience in strategy and general management and marketing, and I'm giving that information to others that they can go out and create their own businesses and own their own destiny. And so I do this. I come on my channel and on my website, and I explain, for example, what are some of the things that people are getting wrong about strategy. So being clear about who your customer is, what value you bring to them, why you're doing this, what's your vision, and don't sacrifice your long-term success chasing short-term goals. And understand the difference between a tactic and a strategy. I just want to be very clear. Your strategy is your what, is your why, is your who, and your tactic is your how. How are you going to go about doing all of that? And I'm going to reference one of my favorite cases ever, and I think they have been lauded as one of the most successful companies in America, behind two of probably the most admired CEOs. So that's Southwest Airlines. And Southwest Airlines has a very simple and elegant strategy. So I'm going to be referencing that throughout this video and talking to you about what it is that they very distinctly do that sets them apart. So their strategy, their mission really was, they want to provide low cost air travel to and a great customer experience, and also want to provide a good culture for their employees. And so their strategy is, let's provide low cost and a good customer experience, because the founding CEO did not believe that customers had to give up quality in order to get economy. And then they set up tactics around that. So one of the primary tactics that they set up around that is that they borrow, if you will, gates, and they borrow space at airports. So instead of having a hub and spoke model, like think of Delta being based in Atlanta, and then they fly you to their busier airports, and then you kind of connect through there. That's a hub and spoke model. Southwest basically just kind of flies point to point and borrows space, for lack of a better term, in other airports. So their tactic, in order to be able to provide low cost, high quality, is to keep their operational costs low. So that's one tactic that they use to keep their operational costs low, and they pass that on to the consumer. How they also provide a high quality experiences, they treat their customers well, but they treat their employees well. But I'm going to get back to here in just a moment. The second thing startups get wrong about strategy and planning is that they put people second, including themselves. The founders put people second, including themselves. And this is really where a lot of startups and young organizations, and even some big organizations, can go wrong. They get so focused on, we got to put a product out, we got to put a service out, we got to do this, we got to do all the things, that they forget that a business is made up of people. People come together and drive the service or drive the business. They're the ones connecting with the customer and the client ultimately. So if you're not treating your customers well, or you're not treating your employees well, they're not going to treat your customers well, and that's going to show up on the top line. And Richard Branson says this also. He talks about, treat your employees so well, because when you treat your employees well, they'll in turn take care of your clients. And he also says to develop your employees, develop them to the point where they could leave, but treat them so well that they don't want to leave. So it's important to focus on developing. I'm aware of a startup that their turnover is almost 100%, and a true story. And the founder feels like as if he is just hiring the wrong people, when it's really at the head, he's the toxic individual, and people come into the organization and then they leave, within months. And that person also doesn't take care of themselves. So not only are the employees not being taken care of, there's a lack of self-care. And founders, even if they have the greatest intention, they want to do well for their customers, they want to do well for their employees, they want to do well for their families and friends, that they are leaving themselves out of the equation. They're trying to take care of everybody else instead of themselves, so they're not getting sleep. Lack of sleep, we know, can exacerbate chronic disease. It can increase blood pressure. It can have a lot of negative health impacts on our body. And so not only are they not taking care and looking out for employees, and customers are also not getting the benefit of that, they forget to take care of themselves. So it is important to stop and take time and think about how you want to recognize and appreciate employees as you grow your team. And even if you're a solopreneur, this is still for you, because you have to take care of you. You probably also have a family. Maybe you have a dog, a cat, something. Other living things, including yourself, depend on you, and you need to take care of yourself. We see this whole notion of I'll sleep when I'm dead as a badge of honor, but it really isn't. Take care of yourself, take care of your employees, and your business will benefit from that. Number 3 thing that startups get wrong about strategy and planning is forgetting to execute. You can think so much about who the customer is and how you want to reach them. You might even be, developing employees and thinking about processes and systems, and you get all that together, but then you actually just forget about the whole execution piece of it, or you are mistaking activity for action. So let's start with execution first. You need a plan. So you've come up with the strategy of who your target audience is. Who's your target customer? Where they hang out? Are they at Starbucks? Are they at Caribou? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Snapchat? You've got your team and your culture together. Now you need your plan together, and your plan should be filled with goals, not a bunch of goals. 3, 4 goals, maybe 5. You want to keep it very crisp and clear. Going back and looking at Southwest, they say the current CEO says, Southwest has a strategy. It's getting things done. And essentially, or that's their strategic plan, is getting things done. And essentially they like, these are our initiatives. These are the goals that support those initiatives. These are the people who are accountable. These are the key performance indicators, or KPIs. This is what we're measuring. What get measured gets done. And so don't forget to sit down and create your plan, your initiatives that support your plan. And anything that is not a part of your strategy, anything that does not support that strategy, is a no. So your initiative is, for example, what is it that you're going to do marketing wise to reach your target audience? What are the goals that you're looking for? If your goals should be SMART, they should be specific, they should be measurable, they should be achievable, they should be relevant, and they should be time bound. So have your goals and then measure those goals, assign people to projects, assign people for accountability, create dashboards that have the data that comes back from those goals ready, review them often, and be ready and prepared to make decisions or pivot and plans as that data comes back. And everything ever goes smoothly. It never goes from A to Z the way that you think it is. I know. Let me tell you, I've launched product. I've also had to recall product. I've also received embargo on my product coming into the country, which is a whole for my medical device biotech people. That's a whole other situation. But things come up and you need to be able to pivot quickly and have a plan in place so that you can be, like a cool cucumber and just do what you got to do. The number 4 thing startups get wrong about strategy and planning is that they act too slow or they act too fast. And a lot of times it's driven out of fear. Either direction. One of the best ways to know if you should act slow or act fast is to be keeping an eye out on the landscape as a whole. What's the competition doing? And competition also includes the standard. So for example, if you're in healthcare and you're launching a new healthcare product or a new medical device product, standard of care is a competitor. Whatever is the standard that people go to can consider that also a competitor, not just people or companies that are offering the same products and services that you do. And then also think about disruptive technologies, disruptive trends. You want to keep an eye on all of that because that will help you gauge when you need to jump and when you need to, stand still. And, the danger of moving too fast is that we're ahead of the trend and people don't quite get us yet, not yet. Or moving too slow is you missed the boat and now you're a me too. And, you're thinking, Nile, I want to be the first mover. I can be the first mover advantage. Yes, you could be the first mover and there is benefit and value to being the first mover. There's also benefit and value to being a close second. So MySpace, they were a first mover, but Facebook pretty much dominated that area by the time they hit the market. They watched MySpace and did things differently. When you think of compact discs, for example, when I say CDs or compact discs or manufacturers of CDs, you probably think of Sony first. It was actually Philips back in the 70s that launched a CD, a compact disc. They partnered with Sony later in the 80s to put out the first consumer music CD. It was Billy Joel CD. They partnered together to put that out. And Sony has pretty much dominated that market since, but it was really Philips that put in a lot of the early technology work and a lot of the research and heavy lifting on that. And Sony came in and just did it a little bit better. So that can be first downfall of being the first mover. But the advantage to being a close second mover is if it's new technology or new market, you can learn from mistakes that other people make, but also the first mover is spending all of the money to build awareness, to bring people to the brand, to bring people to understand the technology. And so you don't have to spend as many resources on creating that knowledge base as long as you're a close second. But if you're going to be a close second, you need to know how you're going to change the game. Take us back to step 1. What is your strategy? So when we think about moving too fast or moving too slow, you have to be a tea leaves reader. You have to be keeping an eye on what's going on in the rest of the industry, reading trade magazines online. Something that I used to do as a marketer and a strategist when I was responsible for competitive intelligence was reading publicly available financial statements. Now, this doesn't work if you are up against a private company because they don't have to publicly make their financial statements available. But 10Ks are available for publicly traded companies. I would read those every time they came out, and I would find out about new product launches, new initiatives that they weren't advertising out quite yet because they weren't ready to launch it, but they had to make it publicly available in their documents, and they would get buried in the text, in the small fine print. But I would find it. That's how I learned that a competitor of mine was going to be was developing a new product and was going to launch it, and so I was able to launch the product right ahead of them. So yeah, you have to get that 360 degree view of what's going on around you and think about who your competitors are. And by the way, if you are up against private competitors, they might have used investment dollars from venture VCs or venture capitalists. Look there. Look for where they may have gotten seed money. Look for their pitch decks. Those might be publicly available somewhere. So you gotta think a little bit outside the box when you're researching your competitors if they're private companies. Number five thing that startups get wrong about strategy and planning is no feedback loop. And here's what I mean by feedback loop. You do an action, and then you're like, great, we did the action. We took action. It wasn't activity. We took action. But then you don't follow through on, well, how did that action work out for you? And again, the difference between an activity and an action. Activity is, I'm starting a business, so I'm going to buy my domain. I'm going to get some business cards. I'm going to design a logo. I'm going to pick some colors. I'm going to do all of these things, but I haven't actually planned the strategy. I haven't thought about who my customer is. I haven't figured out how I'm going to attract sales and customers, how I'm going to sell to them, right? So taking action is what is going to help move the business forward. Activity is just things that you're doing to stay busy, to make yourself feel productive and comfortable. So when we talk about taking action and having feedback from that action, if you launched a social media campaign, you must take copious notes on how that worked. Get the insights, the analytics, use tools such as Hootsuite or other tools. If it's, on Instagram or Twitter, they have their own analytics pages. All of this is completely free. But you want to get that feedback and you want to act on that feedback. You want to change what you need to change. If you thought something would get enough likes and it didn't, or you thought something would get, you put out a webinar and that didn't work, or you went to a trade show and you didn't get as many people coming by your booth, you want to get all of that back, all that information back, and you want to discuss it. One of the things this is something that military does, and they talk about this. When they go out on a mission, they come back, no matter if the mission was successful or unsuccessful, they come back together as a team and they do a debrief. And it's a very specific way to do some debrief. Is like, hey, what worked well, what didn't work well, what could we do differently? And that's kind of it. And so every time that you take action, you want to be sure that you are collecting feedback. You also want to be sure that you're capturing voice of customer, VOC. And you can do this through surveys. I recommend going out to Reddit and throwing some stuff out there. You want to be sure that you're capturing what people think, what people want, because ultimately your business is not a reflection of you. Your business is a reflection of what value you bring to customers. What is the problem that you solve for your people? And so I think a lot of times we get into this struggle of, well, my business is me. And even when we're solopreneurs, this is me, this is my brand. But you're trying to create a customer experience. So you need this feedback loop. You also need feedback loop from the people on your team who are doing these initiatives, because it's going to be very important. And I tell people this when people ask me, well, what do you do as a strategist? And I liken it to being the owner of an airline, right? So I liken it, here we are with Southwest, but I liken it to as the airline operator, the owner of the airline, I need to know where all of my planes are. I need to know where they are going. I need to know the flight paths they are going to take. I need to know their cargo. I need to know how much fuel they need. I need to know how many people it takes to run that plane. How big should the crew be? I need to know how many people need to be on that plane. I need to know if there's weather coming. I need to know if they need to divert to another airport, or if it's just no longer, hey, we just need to land this plane exactly where it is, and we need to get those passengers to their destination in another way, because this flight probably wasn't the best flight, whatever. So that's how I liken it to what I do as a strategist. Is I'm keeping all the planes in the air, but sometimes we need to know when to land planes, because the worst thing that you can do is attach yourself to a strategy and like, that's our strategy, that's what we're going to do. And even when everything in the world is telling you, don't do it, it's not working, we want to hold on to it and we want to stick to it because we want to see it work. One of the best things about strategy, one of the things that I love about strategy and problem solving, is failing fast. Try something, fail fast. Try something, get the feedback, doesn't work, don't do it anymore. If you have decided we've got 5 initiatives and well, that number 3 initiative, that's not really working out too well, ditch it, end it, or change it. But strategy isn't set in stone. It is about how you get from point A to point B, and point B needs to be success. If you are following something because that's what you said you were going to do, you won't ultimately find success. You'll find yourself in a different destination. The plane took off, it was headed toward New York, but you ended up in Puerto Rico. That's not a success. So, define success for yourself. And if I want to say anything really overall about strategy is, define what success looks like. That's really when you get clear. So to get clear, define what success looks like. Why? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? How are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? Then think about your people. Think about yourself as the head of this organization. You set the tone as the leader. If it's a toxic environment, you can only look to yourself as to why it's a toxic environment. Get rest, get sleep, take care of yourself, stay fit. It's not an accident that the wealthiest people in the world are also the fittest. So be sure that you're taking care of yourself. Don't forget to execute. Get a plan, sit down, write it out. I know you're busy and you're thinking, what? Take 1 to 2 days. I took 3 days basically of my strategy offsite with just myself and my dog. But really, I sat down for 3 days and I thought through and I created avatars for my products and my services. And I thought about my why and my mission and my vision. Take the time to think about that, because after that, things flow so much faster. I promise you. But don't forget to execute. Create that plan. What are your initiatives? What are your SMART goals? Assign tasks and get some systems and tools. There are lots of free systems and tools. I might produce a video soon sharing some of my favorite tools and systems that I use. 95% of them are free. Then, be sure that you're keeping your eye on the landscape so that you can know when to act. It's not always beneficial to be the first mover. Sometimes the most lucrative position is number 2. Then lastly, have feedback loops. Keep track of everything. Ask questions. Ask for feedback. And a great way to ask for feedback is to ask people what worked well, what didn't work well, what would you do differently? Create a framework for them to provide you feedback. And you can do surveys as well. But really what you're looking for is that voice of customer. You're also looking to hear from your own employees. Again, if it's just you, give yourself feedback. There are lots of journals out there, and I'll share a couple that I really like that have daily notes to yourself that you can jot down and kind of figure out, well, what did I do well today? What didn't I do well today? So everything I'm saying applies if it's just you or if there's 200 of you. So that's it. Those are the 5 things that startups get wrong about strategy and planning, and how to avoid them and what to do better. So my intent when I work with entrepreneurs and professionals is to create content that inspires, informs, and is implementable. So in other words, the why, the what, and the how. So please take time to subscribe to my channel and turn on alerts. Also, please share this video with others who you think might benefit from learning more about strategy. My expertise is in general management, strategy, and marketing. So I love problem solving, and I hope to hear from you soon on my social media channels at I am Nile Harris, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And I'm also on LinkedIn at Nile Harris. So please join the conversation. I look forward to hearing from you soon.